Fall is always an interesting time of year for a gardener because there's a little bit of us that's kind of sad to see everything starting to die back and knowing it's going into dormancy. But I have to be honest, there's another part of me that actually really looks forward to the winter rest. However, it's not time to rest quite yet, because if you take some of these tips and put them into use now, you're going to make your life a lot easier come springtime and even next summer when things get really busy in the garden again. So this is my perennial herb garden. This garden bed we put in 2 years ago. So quite a few of these plants are just beginning to really reach full maturity. And some of them I have been letting go to seed purposely because I want them to fill in without me having to start them from seed again. But some of them I don't actually really want to reseed everywhere. So this is my feverfew blossoms that I did collect some of these to use in the herbal medicine cabinet, but quite a few of these you can see where I have just let them go to full bloom and to full seed so that they could reseed. However, now is the time to begin cutting all of this back and kind of doing a fall cleanup. I find it's easier while these are still standing before they really went through all of the snow and rain and everything and are matted down to the ground. And then if I, wait and do this really far into winter, then half the time they're still kind of frozen to the ground. So I find it's easier while they're still upright like this to just come through and clip all of these back after they have had a chance to go to seed. And you can see, because this is a perennial, this has already put out a lot of nice, pretty new green growth. We haven't had our first frost yet, but this will come through the frost just fine. We are zone 7, and feverfew is a pretty hardy, great little perennial. The other nice thing about getting all of this clipped back is I can really see where I have had some plants that have started to come in here that I don't necessarily want to grow and take over in this bed. So it allows you to really see the weeds, and I can get those pulled out before their root system has had a chance to get further established. And we just had a nice rain, which when you are pulling out, especially deeper rooted type plants, it's much easier to pull them out. You know this to be true when the ground is wet. So if it's really dry, they went through the drought of summer, it can be really hard to get them to pull out. But when the soil is wet from some nice soaking rains, which we just got off of burn ban because we've had enough rain come through, that is the time, which is why I usually wait until we've hit fall. Today actually is the first day of fall as we're filming this, to begin pulling these guys, all of the weeds that I don't want left, and even some of the plants maybe that aren't necessarily weeds, but I don't want them in this bed, to either relocate or get them pulled up. So now I can get in here around this one and see that I really don't want this clover to grow and take over in here. And it's actually rooted in there pretty deep. There we go. You can see that. And then I've also got the nemesis of Northwest gardeners. I'm not sure how far it grows. It doesn't grow on the east side of the states. However, buttercup is one of the banes, along with bindweed, in my garden. This thing will send out runners and root everywhere. It is one of the most prolific. Well, actually I pulled up a little bit of yarrow there with it, but that's fine. I have lots of yarrow that's reseeding. This is the buttercup, and so you can see it sends out these little runners. So everywhere it sends out these runners, it is trying to grow a root, and it will root a new plant, and so it will take over a garden bed in, I feel like weeks, but literally within months, definitely within a season, if you're not really judicious in pulling it out. So I'm gonna get back all of these cut back, and we're gonna get this weeded. So I want to make sure that I'm cleaning out some of the flowers and or weeds that I don't want to grow in here, so that there's space for the ones that I do want to come in to begin to continue to fill in. So case in point, we have foxglove digitalis is wild to our area. So it just grows everywhere. And it is an herb. However, it is a herb that one should never, ever, ever use unless you're under the direct care of a very skilled herbalist, because foxglove actually can slow down and affect the rhythm, and it's used in digoxin, which is a heart medication. So foxglove is never one that you want to be using or consuming just willy-nilly. But it's a beautiful, beautiful flower, and I do love it. However, I don't want it to overtake this bed. So I need to pull all of these out. It won't bloom until the second year. It is a biennial. However, I don't want this to come in here. So I'm only pulling out a short amount, so I'm not too worried about it. If you're pulling out a large section or dealing with like the blossoms and stuff, you may want to use gloves because it can can be absorbed by the skin. I've got just a small patch here. I may go get gloves to pull out some of the, this is about it. However, I want to remove this because I have a bunch of chamomile that self-seeded and has already died back for the year. But if these foxgloves continue to grow, then they are going to choke out the chamomile seeds that I know are fallen already here on the soil and that will come up this spring when the conditions are right. So I want to make sure, oh yeah, there's some nice good earthworms in there in the soil. So I want to make sure that I'm removing those because this is my medicinal herb garden and I don't want the foxglove growing in here. I don't mind if it grows other places in the flower beds because it's pretty, but I want the feverfew and I want the chamomile to fill in here, which you can see I've got little bits of this feverfew. Here's one that's still in blossom right here. It's about the only one I still have in bloom. So I'll let this go and seed in here. I've also got Tulsi, which is holy basil. And these flowers will drop seed. This is also a medicinal type of basil, also very flavorful. But I want this to continue to seed in along with the chamomile and not this foxglove. So we're going to remove all of this so that these seeds will be able to germinate next spring when the time is right and fill in. So now we want to come to the back edge of this garden. And I can see if I don't come back here, because I normally view it from the other side, this can quickly become, oh yes, blackberry vines. I should say the other bane of gardeners with those weeds I mentioned earlier is also blackberries. So this spring, I went through here and edged everything and pulled out all the weeds. And now, see if I'd come out here and notice this when it was just popping up earlier in the summer, would have been way easier, which is why I'm saying do this now instead of later. So I got the main portion of this, probably a little bit. So I'll just have to keep an eye on here and come out because more will pop up later, but such is the way. So I try to come out at least early in the spring, and then again, right around the first frost is actually ideal because then that's when the grass will start to die back naturally and go into dormancy for the winter. But sometimes if I wait until the first frost and the weather's really nasty outside, and I have to tell you, I'm not necessarily one who loves to garden in the pouring down rain, which is what usually happens for us here in the fall. So I like to come through, you kind of have two tools you can use. This is a great one, it's just straight down. So it's a nice edger. So this is just gonna sever any amount of grass roots that are starting to grow in this way. So I'm just gonna be cutting them off, and that's gonna help them from further encroaching into this bed. So this is a great tool for that. But if you don't have one of these, you can also do the same thing with a shovel. But as you can see, this one is just really easy to get in there and do that with. But if you've got any areas where you don't have one of these yet, a shovel will definitely do the same thing. It just doesn't cut through quite as nice as you can see because it's at a different angle. So I really like to use this. We just got this at a garage sale actually this summer, and I love using it. And then I can go through and pull anything that's really getting its way in there removed. So these are my marshmallow plant, and these were lovely, beautiful blossoms that I have let die back because I want these to go to seed and seed and grow in and fill all of this in, because the marshmallow plant, when we're harvesting the root, which is traditionally the part of the plant that you're going to harvest and use for medicinal purposes, the plant needs to be about 3 years old. These are only 2 years old, so next year I'll be able to harvest some of these and get the root. However, I obviously need plants to replace the ones that I'm harvesting, so I'm letting these blossoms all dry out and mature and go to seed in the hopes that they will naturally just reseed for me and pop up in the spring. If not, then I'll probably harvest some of these seeds, take them indoors, and start some myself, which is how I originally did these, but I'm really hoping that they'll just drop seeds and come back. If you're interested in learning how to grow and use herbs medicinally, you can check out this video that I have that walks through the different medicinal properties here in the herb garden. But I also have a brand new full herbal course on learning how to use herbs medicinally during the fall and cold seasons. Or I should say fall and winter seasons, which definitely is cold, but it also happens to be cold and flu season as well. It's a brand new course that is just opening, so you can click on the link below this video to find out more about it.